Hello everyone, and welcome to my overview on third-party Super Nintendo controllers. In this video, I'll be going over my favorite third-party Super Nintendo controllers, so if you're in the market for a new controller, hopefully this video will be a bit of help to you. There are a ton of different manufacturers out there, and I know that there's varying ranges of quality, so I'll show you my favorites today, and based on using a ton of different versions, these ones I've got here today I believe are the best in terms of quality and compatibility. So without further ado, I'll get going on this one right here. So this is the actual original Super Nintendo controller. It's 25 or so years old, and I've tried to keep it in best condition as possible. I've got another one that's in a little worse condition. It squeaks. Just one of the center posts is broken for support. But this one here, it's got some electrical tape on it. Again, it's 25 years old. It's yellowed a little bit. The buttons aren't as crisp as they used to be. The D-pad's a little mushy. Again, it's old, so it's been through a lot over the years. Most controllers now, I know people will say, oh, my controller lasted me 2 years or so. You know, after 25 years, it's pretty darn good in terms of quality. With that, you can tell it's the North American version because of the purple buttons, you know, the concave and convex buttons. And it is, I guess, everything that people like to compare things to and say, hey, this is, you know, the best of the best. Nothing is quite like the Super Nintendo controller. You can't get that in third parties. You need a Super Nintendo controller. And I'll tell you right now, well, yes, that might be true if this was completely brand new. After 25 years, this is not the greatest controller anymore. It's worn out, to say the least. So I use this controller strictly with my Super Nintendo. I don't use it with a PC. I don't, you know, put an adapter on it or anything like that. There's no point. The controller's old. I don't want to break it. It's just nice to have. So I'll keep that with my Super Nintendo, and you know, if I'm going for the authentic feel, I'll just use it strictly with my Super Nintendo, and that's it. So moving on, I'll take a look at a couple of Bluetooth controllers, and these are from 8bitdo. So this one is the SFC30, and that's based on the Super Famicom. You can tell by the different color of buttons. And this one here is the SNES30. And you can tell based on the purple buttons, which are quite similar to the Super Nintendo. You can really tell how much the Super Nintendo is yellowed compared to this one. Both of these are Bluetooth. Both are controlled, or both are powered by batteries. So they're lithium-ion batteries. They last about 10 hours, and these retail for about $40 each. I will say right away that's pricey for a Super Nintendo controller. But what you get out of this, the Bluetooth controller, and the quality that these are built with, it's second to none. So I will say, right off the bat, this one I've had for a little longer. There is a defect with the battery itself, not with the buttons or anything like that, just the battery. This thing won't really hold a charge anymore, and I've looked at, yeah, you can see the battery's dead. I've looked at replacing the battery, and it's soldered right to the board that's inside the controller here, so I'd have to desolder that and order an exact other one, which I'm not going to do. It'd be easier just to buy a new controller. But on the plus side of that, it is micro USB, so I can just plug it in and use it as a wired controller, and I'm good to go. I've used this with a variety of games. Both of these, actually, I've used with a variety of games, ranging, you know, from Shovel Knight to Street Fighter 4. So they work exceptionally well. They're great on the road. I've paired them, both of these actually, to a Nexus S, an S2, a Galaxy S3, a Galaxy S4, and a Galaxy S5. I haven't had the chance to pair them with anything else, but they've all paired no issues. They pair to the computer no issues, and overall they're great. So if your computer doesn't have Bluetooth, you can always buy a Bluetooth dongle, which costs, you know, next to nothing to purchase. It works with Windows 7, Windows 8, 8.1, and Windows 10, no problem. The computer recognizes it as the NES30, which is a different version of the 8bitdo gamepad. However, the button layout is actually the exact same, and it works just fine. So that being said, you just hit start, hold start on to power it up. It's good to go. It's blinking blue right now because it's searching for a Bluetooth connection. My phone right now I've got the Bluetooth turned off, so it's not going to find anything. All in all, these are really high quality. They're actually higher quality than the SNES controller. Surprisingly, they're higher quality than my SNES controller when it was brand new. The buttons here are, I don't know if you can hear them, but they're really nice and clicky. And it's not a cheap clicky. It's a nice clicky. The D-pads work great. This D-pad here is a little more worn down. Mind you, I've used it heavily and used it on fighting games quite a bit, so it's gotten beaten up pretty good, and it still looks great. But you can compare the buttons, the clickiness, so you can tell that the SNES one is a little worn out. Now moving on from these guys, these are great. If you have any questions, by all means, I'll answer them in the comments. Anyways, moving on, this is my all-time favorite third-party SNES controller. It is the iBuffalo. You can also purchase it as the Buffalo. It is a USB, so there's no Bluetooth, there's no wireless capabilities on this one. And it just plugs into the computer. It works with Windows 7, 8, 8.1, 8.10, or 8.10, Windows 10 that I've used. And all in all, this one is my favorite. And I'll tell you why. This one here, I believe, is $11 or $12. So it's extremely inexpensive, and the quality is great. I actually use this over a fight stick for fighting games online. Just because this D-pad here is actually pretty incredible. It's very, very springy. So if you have to do down back, it's pretty darn good. It works great with games like Shovel Knight and whatnot too. It's got a turbo and clear button, and it's actually a little deceiving with these guys here. You can't use them for anything else. If you're on the computer and try to manually assign to here, the computer doesn't even recognize these buttons. So these buttons are directly programmed to the board itself as turbo and clear. You will never ever be able to use them for anything else. It's a bit of a downside, but at the same time, really, it's in an awkward place, so it's not like you'd use those buttons for anything else. So all in all, this one is great. It is my favorite version of the SNES controller. It's one heck of a cheap price. The buttons here, they're clicky, not as clicky as the 8bitdos. The 8bitdos, these guys here are like the Rolls Royce, and I would say this is just the everyday the everyday one to use. This one's great. You know, let friends borrow it. It doesn't matter because it's $11 or $12. I don't care if someone breaks it. It's highly replaceable and just all around great, durable, and everything. So if you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Other than that, thank you for watching my video.